Bring the ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in.
Have not used this intro music in a long time. It's the original Rule Zero intro music.
Go.
All right then. Hey guys, let me switch over. Hang on. I'm gonna, one of these days, there we go. Now you won't have to worry about the echo cancellation. All right, guys, let's unmute here. Awesome. How you guys doing? Welcome.
Yay.
Back to the show, Cappy. Welcome back to the show, Paul.
Hey.
I gotta say, it was almost impossible. I had to find, I just went to look on the YouTube to find this live. It was like impossible.
Really?
Go to all those social medias all over the place.
I had to go to your page like twice to find it. Like it didn't even come up the first time I went.
Yeah, most likely.
Shadow banning?
Yes, I was just about to bring that up because that's actually that's actually pertinent to today's topic. Yeah, I'm getting shadow banned on Instagram for sure. I'm definitely getting shadow banned on YouTube right now. In spite of very well watched videos, I'm still like my revenue is like I get great impressions, I got great CTR, I got great audience retention. Everything is like you're hitting on all 8 cylinders, and it's like the revenue is still kind of like low for all of that. And I'm like, why is that happening? And it's like, well, you're being shadow banned essentially is what you're being. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Again, this is just sort of bookkeeping here, but I have been, I know that, was it Sterling Cooper and some of these other guys, maybe some of you guys even have been dealing with like fake accounts recently. Sterling, I know John's had this. He's had to have people like sort of like try to ban like, Evil John or the Nega John, the Nega Sterling. That's like whoever wants to impersonate you and sort of jump on your juice. Sorry, Ryan, unmute yourself. I can't unmute you. You got to do it.
I was like, I got you one better. I got the real life George Bruno in my chat lately.
Damn.
Yeah, I believe you. Look, I even put the Ibanez up there just for you today.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
See,
whatever. I'm in too good of a good mood anyway. The honking has come to town.
Yeah, fake Rolo is fake Rolo. I'll tell you that. Yeah, and what's funny is there are guys that will go around and like spoof my accounts, and like then they'll go into like people. They'll go on to Fresh and Fit, or they'll go at DJ Academics, or they'll go somewhere else, and they'll pretend to be me, and then they'll try to like instigate like some sort of fight. And they'll use my RM icon, my av on their accounts and pretend to be me, but don't believe them. But I've noticed that. I've also noticed sort of this, especially the more I do like bigger name podcasts, or I go out and I if I'm on You Are Here, or if I go do something a little bit more high profile, that's when that shit intensifies. And I know where that's coming from. So just so everyone knows. How's everybody doing? This, I haven't hosted in so long. Everything has been like getting, conspiring to sort of block me from actually hosting a Rule Zero. Ryan, also thank you for picking up the slack also in my absence.
Oh, it's fine. John and I, to be honest, the guys kind of like the smaller panels from time to time where it's kind of more intimate. Like, did you know John wrote 2 books?
Really?
We talked about it. Yeah, 2 books.
God.
Crazy.
On fighting?
One on
really
fighting,
good.
one on losing weight.
Yeah.
violence.
It's good. It's probably good stuff. People need to get it. I didn't even know that.
I will be on the Patrick Bet David show on Tuesday, February 8th at 8 a.m. Eastern time. I thought I'd throw that out there here right in the beginning. I had no idea really that I was even on anybody's radar as far as that was. I mean, I know who Patrick Bet David is, but it's like I didn't think of him as sort of like a red pill kind of guy, and like maybe he isn't, but I know he's tight with Robert Kiyosaki and George Gammon and some of these other guys, and I'm pretty sure that's how I ended up on his radar. So I'm very glad for the opportunity to go and do that. He just had like Jordan Peterson on, I think, on Friday. And I think he's expanding his podcast into something a little bit more substantial right now. So it's not just sort of like this variety show. It's like he's talking to. I saw him do an interview with the lady who's the press secretary for DeSantis in Florida, and I actually thought that was a pretty interesting podcast. Seeing the back and forth there. He's not a bad interviewer. So I will be out there at Fort Lauderdale. And then, of course, next week I will be also on the Fresh and Fit podcast. I'm going to be out there with my good friend Aaron Clary, right? Did you get your flight? Did you get your coupons? You got your coupons, right? You got your coupons. Unmute yourself, you son of a bitch. I can't hear you. Hold on. I think your mic's dead then. Groggy Cappy.
Oh, yeah. He's probably, yeah. I bet you it's his mic.
He's going to come back. This is damn technology.
Sure.
You got a coupon. I know that. He's using points. We're going to use points.
Spirit Airlines. Here we go.
In Fort Lauderdale. We're going to move down there. All right. Well, anyways, I wanted to, we'll just jump into the topic today. I was on my my podcast, and if you have been watching my live stream, one persistent theme that sort of jumped out at me in the last, I would say, probably like 3 months, has been there's a lot of I don't want to say mainstream podcasts, because I can't really call them mainstream, and I think I have my difficulty is in defining like what is mainstream now and what is not. And like to me, mainstream is like Tucker Carlson, right? To me, mainstream is something that's like, I mean, that's like big leagues kind of stuff. It's like
substream.
Yeah, and I think that's like something that we kind of have to define, because I think a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, is the red pill going to go mainstream?" And like I was asked that question on Fresh and Fit in March of last year, and my answer was, I hope not. I hope not, because the moment we do, we end up watering it down. And I mean, I really should go back and just like clip out that one part and say, was this prophetic or was this not? But I see more and more people like Dave Rubin, certainly Tim Pool, unfortunately for Tim Pool. I see, You Are Here, Elijah Schaefer. And now even Patrick Bet David is calling me to talk about this. I mean, just it's on down the list here. And Louder with Crowder. Now, there's another really good one. People want to sort of toy with the idea of red pill topics. And I don't know, did you guys see the episode of Matt Walsh on Dr. Phil when he was confronting the transgender, the bearded lady?
They couldn't define what a woman was.
It popped up in a feed of mine, but
yeah,
I didn't click on it. Put it like that.
Same. I keep thinking back to when he wanted you on there, how they were kind of like telling you to play a character and stuff. I'm like, what did they tell Walsh to do? What did they tell those people to do? It's just performative art.
It is, and I got a lot of Roosh versus Dr. Oz vibes from that whole thing, because you know what they do. It's like they told me this flat out when I was talking to their press people was, we're going to shoot for 2 hours for a 43-minute show. And I'm like, okay, now I know where we're going with this. So yeah, exactly what was going on. But here's the thing is like those topics are they're the topic du jour right now. It seems like, now that we don't have like Trump to beat up on anymore, we got to find something that's a little bit more engaging or salacious, I guess. And so I see all these people talking about like Andrew Klavan, and I'm trying to think of the other guys who are on like the Daily Wire, right? And even Candace Owens, right? They want to talk about the crisis of manhood or the crisis of masculinity right now. And usually this comes out when some sort of new statistics hit the press, right? It's when we see that suddenly now the new stats are out for 2021, and it looks like, in fact, I'll show them to you here in a second. It looks like men are only enrolling in college at 40% rate, while it's like 60% women in colleges. So it's a 60-40 divide right there on average. I mean, depends on the actual college that you're talking about. In some cases, it might be 70-30 depending on where you're going. But so when stuff like that comes out, and then people keep talking about how masculinity is in crisis, and everybody's a girly man. Did you guys see? Did any of you guys see the? It showed up in my feed. It was Sean Penn was talking about how we're just like this nation of pussies right now.
Yep.
Like it's all these men need to man up. And
Sean Penn's going to tell us this.
Sean Penn.
Thanks,
Yes,
Sean Penn.
Sean Penn.
Because you're good at acting like
yeah.
Time.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, so that's it, right. I'm Paul. I mean, when you got a guy as liberal and as like woke Hollywood, archetypal guy like Sean Penn is saying, you guys are a bunch of pussies, we're in trouble. We got a real big problem.
The irritable beta that punches when the
Like,
photographers.
oh my God, what a pussy.
I know. And so I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this narrative, and every time it comes up, it's always, well, men need to man up. Men need to get back in college. Men need to go and become, prepare themselves for life to be a better husband and a better parent and a better, father and a better, and all things that like we can like sort of agree with. I mean, it's sort of truthy and it's an aphorism. Well, you should be a strong man and be a good father, and that's how families are built. But the motivation to me seems to come from this, not this want to help men out, but rather to help women out, because the men are so pathetic that they can't step up and fulfill that woman's sort of like life plan, like their life goal. So it's not out of a sort of this empathy for men who are sort of in the dropout generation right now. It's more for the benefit of women overall. So,
Of course.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit here in a second. But first I have a question for all of you. And I'll see if I can go dig it up. Here's a question. Why do you think so many men aren't having sex? And Ryan already knows where I'm going with this. Why do you think? Okay, here's your choices. Pornography, video games, or they're scared to talk to girls. Go.
I got number four.
Or other, yeah. Or give me another answer. Why do you think
80% of them are overweight and awful? 80% of them are overweight and awful to talk to.
Because it can't possibly be women. It can only be the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll take the contrary thing here. Think of the video game one. I would say yes, but not in the way that they're saying. Because back in the day, you remember this, Rolo. You're an '80s kid. Do you remember there was arcades?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cigarette things on the thing, have a beer, play some Donkey Kong. It was social. You went outside, you hung out with people. You had no choice but to be where women are. And there was nothing else to do, so you had to be social. There was farm parties for the kids. There was, in the city, guys would go hang out at like a park and drink there. Yeah, so it's like you had no choice but to socialize. Now, with the internet, you can sit at home. Instead of playing video games, you can go online. Yeah. Instead of going to an arcade, you sit at home with your Xbox. So yes, I think it's mostly they're fat and complainy too, sure. But yeah, I think you can't go anywhere where people are anymore. There's no social spaces. And
especially in Toronto.
Well, there's a big barbecue going on right now, actually.
You damn kids don't know the joy of arcades.
Well, the women are awful. The women are, so like if you go to a social space and all the women are awful and unattractive and fat and masculine, like,
yes, you sound very angry and unhinged, bitch. Yes.
Yeah.
I think
not wrong.
I think though that all right, always though there was a larger percentage of males that weren't mating and weren't getting girls. I think that's always been a thing when we look backwards in our just our history. But what we have now though is like what Ryan's saying is we have more outlets for guys to not try to get the girls and instead of get those dopamine rewards through other things. So we've become more complacent as a society. So it's two things. Women are always selecting for the higher top percentage of males, but there's less men that are fighting to get in that top percentage because there's too many easy outlets when it comes to, their reward systems. So they can do the video games, the pornography, this, that, and the other, and then not have the drive to go to the gym and to make themselves attractive and to talk to women. Right, exactly. So it's like a mixture of both things, I think.
Well, I our good friend Brittany Martinez here, who I am convinced is actually a guy. I think this is actually a dude like spoofing you. She asked this question. That's why I wanted to lead off with this one. Pretty much everyone that she polled from her limited source of people here. Pornography is number one. 40% of people answer for pornography. Video games, and maybe you're right about, maybe this reinforces what you were saying, Ryan. Video games are only 6.4%. Maybe if we had more video games, things would be different. Or they're scared to talk to girls, and I thought that was pretty funny right there, because that coincides with the article she was referring to here, which is nearly a third of men under 30 aren't having sex. And I'll call that up here in just a second.
Can I make a quick point here too?
Yes, please do.
Like anytime something's off, it's scared to talk to girls. Scared. It's a
yeah.
Yeah, it's always a way to
you're afraid of it. You're not afraid to talk. I don't want to talk to awful women. I don't want to talk to awful people.
But it's always a way to it's always a way to make it the man.
It's a way to make you
insult the man somehow.
You're bad because of what
you're insecure. You're afraid.
You're not allowed to have standards.
Girly man, you're afraid to talk to girls. No,
may I
talk to awful people.
Fire away there, Gridley.
May I? Okay, my audio. Am I coming in all right?
A little better. You
Yes,
got a little
hello.
bit.
You guys hear me?
A little breaky though.
All right, I'm gonna go switch to the other one after this. So because I've had a couple girls clients, I had to go and do research. And one thing I've noticed on the articles of why can't I find the guys?
Look at diagram of vagina.
Yeah. So I go through all these articles, and Rollo hit it. Not once is responsibility put in the hands of women or laid at the feet of women. It is always, oh, he's afraid. Oh, he just doesn't recognize. He's afraid he's going to like you. And I'm like, holy crap. The number one reason is you're fat. I mean, to be statistically, actuarially, accurate, the number one reason guys ain't talking to you is because you're fat and they're not attracted to you. Now, all those other ones could certainly be other reasons, but you are not attractive enough for him to punch through whatever concerns, fears, and apprehension he might have about talking to you. And even in medical, which psychology today isn't that, but there was like some medical stuff where it's like, look, can you just tell women that they're fat or they're not attractive enough to compel a guy? Like, the fact is he's not approaching you. And it was amazing. All of the internet, the asshole consulting article doesn't come up where I tell people the facts. All of it is mollifying and coddling these girls and trying to protect their ego. And it's just, and that poll, whether that's a guy or a gal, is exactly it. Why X? Men suck reason number one, men suck reason number two, men suck reason number three, other. And absolutely no responsibility or accountability held on the part of women. But that's what it is. So, but I just want to point out, these women are not getting any realistic, counter-based reasons as to why their failure generally, like why this isn't happening or that isn't happening. It's like, well, what are you doing? That is never introduced into their life.
Why would you, though? Yeah. You can't sell widgets if you tell people they're trash. You have to say, "Oh, you're the greatest, fat chick ever. Here, have some merch."
Plus, there's enough dudes, no matter how fat she is, who will still sim for her, though. Now, they're not going to be the guy that she wants, and they're not going to be a guy that's necessarily going to want to invest in her for any length of time. But there's enough dudes out there that will do that, so they get enough confirmation bias to not do those other things. Unfortunately,
they get patted on the head, and even if they don't want to bang that fat chick they're complimenting, they think that if they're nice to that fat chick, other girls will notice how nice they are, and then the girl they do want will pay them attention.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, for female happiness, they have their own matrix they have to step out of too.
Yeah,
You know what I
there's
mean?
definitely a blue pill for women. This is actually pretty good too. I knew this was going to come, so I'll just throw this out there. Thanks, Chris, for this. One huge problem is that a man can be accused of anything for simply approaching a woman. If a man says hi there, she screams harassment.
Well, that's
Yeah,
only if you're
Carl
not
did that.
attractive
Remember
enough.
those 50 days, 50 dates thing you did? Not
Yeah.
once did this shit come up. I think this is a fiction that guys tell themselves
I think
why
it
they're
is.
not.
I think it is as well. But I understand the hesitation at least. Because a lot of times, like I remember when the Me Too thing was going around, and yeah, I hate even to say it was like sort of this passing phase, because it was a pretty dangerous time. It was all about that time when I think it was when right prior to Harvey Weinstein getting arrested and put on trial kind of thing. That's when Me Too became something, and I think we still kind of hang on to the idea that it's not that every woman would, it's that any woman can, but we focus on the any woman can side of things rather than like why would she bother with that, right? Most of the time, they just simply don't want to have it. Your sexual invisibility. I got a laugh out of that. Like when I was talking about the Paulina Porizkova, I hope I'm saying her name right again. When she was locking horns with God Sod, I'm like, she's complaining about being sexually invisible, but it's like it's one of those topics I've hit on for a long time, and it's like, yeah. Welcome to the world of guys. Well, welcome to the 80% of guys right now who are sexually invisible as well. But I do agree with that. I wanted to hit on one quick point though, Ryan, because it sort of dovetails into what Cappy was just talking about. You did something online. I think it was last night on Twitter where you're talking about. Are you doing the stats of what guys expect from women? Like the she's got to be. And you boiled it down. I loved it. Like it had these selections. Is it like a calculator, like the delusion calculator kind of thing?
Yeah, somebody took one of those and flipped it around. So it's like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Stats, I'll let you explain, because there was one stat that I thought was really telling, because it's like is fit, right? Is in good shape, is not overweight, I think is what the classification was. So what?
Yeah, that
what
was literally it. I did two.
Ryan?
The one was like pick out a good girl. I picked between 5 foot and 6 foot, makes normal money, whatever, and it was like 3% of the population. I'm like, all right, then let's do just not fat. I didn't care about any of the other stats, just not fat. And it was like, all right, like 7%. And you're like, holy Jesus Christ. I was playing fast and loose with the stats, but it made a very cognizant point. It's like, yeah, guys, just lower your standards. I'm like, all right, pulse 7%. Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Isn't that the argument? Everybody's like, if you just lowered your standards, you'd totally get laid. I'm like, I lowered them as low as the stats would let me.
Would allow me
basically
to.
Yeah, all I said was don't be married. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was like,
I wish I had that on tap. I should have screen capped that to put on. But like there was one where you were like, look, it has all these. Is there a URL so people can look at that? Because I would love to.
Yeah, well, here, I'll pull up the tweet. I think I got the link for it in there. Bear with me for a sec. I'll point it when I got it.
Yeah, okay. But the one that got me was when you just like distilled it down to she's got to be like unmarried, and what was the other one? Unmarried and
there we go. So the first one, my ideal woman, not married, no kids, any race, at least 5 feet tall, not overweight, earning at least $40,000 per year. 6.7% of women fit that criteria. And I'm like, oh. So I'm like, all right, then let's any marital status, any amount of kids, any race, at least 5 foot, not overweight, any level of income.
Why does she have to be at least 5 foot?
Yeah,
I just figured that way we don't have to get into the dwarfism argument. I didn't want to get canceled.
Well,
right?
no, that's important because, like, remember, guys are always saying, well, they want guys who are 6 feet. Well, the average height of the average American male is like 5'9". So as long as she's 5 foot, then at least you're in the ballpark, though, right?
Right.
Yeah, but here's the part you were joking about. So I'm like, any amount of kids, any race, not overweight. It was like, it's like 27%. I'm like, fine, double ouch. How about not married, any amount of kids, any race, at least 5 foot, any weight, any income. And now it pops into 74%. I'm like, hey.
% yes.
So if you do the numbers, what is that? 74 minus 27. That means half of women out there can't meet the lowest standard that this joke site allows you to set for women.
Yes.
Which, but I mean, most guys are trash, so it's great. So like, let them fight over him. It just means that out of every 5 girls you meet, one of them is dateable. I'm like, all right, sweet, guess meet more girls.
And it
Right. You got to get those numbers up.
Well, it also it coincides with what Cappy was just saying a minute ago. 70 was it? I think it's 70 or 75% of the U.S. population, but 75% of women are overweight.
70%, yes,
right.
Yes.
And then 40% of women are morbidly obese. More so, by the way, than men. This is like for the first time they took stats, like more women are morbidly obese than men are right now.
Correct.
And then on top of that, so that 74% that you just you typed into the stats there, Ryan, that coincides perfectly with the overweight
the book of numbers, yes,
numbers with the national statistics, right? And then so the only thing that makes a 1 point of difference, like that, it's 74 instead of 75, is the 5 foot tall. 5 foot tall. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. Right.
Well, I just want to point out something too. The blank
available, yeah. So that makes 1% of difference, yeah.
But I just want to point out, so like the blank slate equalism thing really screws women for being able to get good partners, because okay, men are overweight too statistically,
yes,
but women will go for men who are overweight more than men would want to go for an overweight woman, it seems like. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that guys shouldn't get in shape, right, and be more attractive.
Oh, you're saying how like if they have to settle for their provider, that they'll get a chubby dude,
right? You know what I mean? Or if the guy's is sort of alpha enough, I mean, there's a level of chubby where he'll hit the statistic but still be attractive to a woman. But women are valued more for their looks and their appearance, and so that's a gender difference in terms of attraction that they're not recognizing. Oh, like blank slate equalism, men are fat, we can be fat too. No, you can't. Your results are going to be not what you want in comparison to even a guy who's a little bit chubby, who makes really good money, has some alpha characteristics, has a good sense of humor, makes her laugh, all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
These standards they push sometimes come blowing back right in their face.
Well, let me. Okay, speaking of which, and speaking of blowing back in their face, now here's the thing: is when that was bad. I didn't even mean to do that. I honestly did not mean to do that. It just came out. I don't know. It just stopped me. But no, but that pushback, when I talk about how men are not allowed to have standards, but women are allowed to have the highest possible standards, that goes back to like wanting to make sure that women get the best possible guy, right? But the problem we have right now is what Paul is referring to is, if I go on a mainstream podcast and I say exactly the same thing that Paul just said, I'm a bad guy. I'm a mean man because I revealed something that, of a visceral nature of how men and how women interact with each other, what the mating market is like, that I think that's the biggest problem. Like I think even a lot of these titles of these guys' videos, like Matt Walsh, for example, it's like, we're doomed because of the modern mating market, or it's always this, frustration, I think, with the sexual marketplace. But when you spell it out in no uncertain terms, as a guy, you get run up the flagpole, right? You get rocks thrown at you. You have to eat all kinds of shit, basically. But when it's the opposite way around, then we can find some way to, I don't know, promote the idea that men need to become more responsible. They need to get in the gym. They need to have a business. They need to be on their game. They need to chase excellence. They need to do all this other stuff. That's okay. We like that narrative, but we don't like is exactly what Paul just said here a second ago, is that men tend to, we want an attractive woman. We want a woman that is arousing. We want a woman that is feminine. We want a woman that is, and this is from an innate perspective here. That we're just talking about, evolved sex differences is what it really boils down to. But if I go and I say, well, this is what I'm looking for in a woman, then I'm a bad person for saying that. But when we talk about men or women wanting men to man up to meet their standards, that is an okay message right now. And the reason for that is because women's concept of love is based on opportunism. And that's the one thing that these guys keep running into, and they don't know that they're about to step in that pitfall, or that in that trap, because the more they say Men need to man up. Men need to take responsibility. Men need to, make more money. Men need to be economically attractive. Men need to do all these things. The more we talk about that, the more that romantic ideal flies out the fucking window. The more we talk about how women are dissatisfied with their selection of guys right now, and we talk about the 80-20 rule that nobody seems to want to talk about, when we bring that up in a public light, that's when they have the guys who are traditional conservatives who believe in this, it's love and flower, it's this love situation and it's this idealistic fantasy for these guys. All that goes out the window because they're forced to acknowledge the fact that the standards that women have for men is not only like astronomically high, but we're also going to try to build a brand on getting men up to that astronomically high level of, performance to meet the, demands or the expectations and entitlements of women who are average at best, right? Who are, as Paul was just saying a second ago, or we're just saying here, is 74% of women are overweight in the United States. But I'm going to build myself up to be the best I can be. I'm going to chase excellence so that I can live up to the standards of entitlement that the average woman has today. That's where I think a lot of the problems start. Go ahead, Ryan. You're going to say.
I was going to say somebody has to tell them Santa Claus isn't real, and it sucks they had to wait till they were 43 to learn.
He's not real.
Yes.
And then the best part too is like, the build yourself up, do the thing. They'll do that, and then the girls will just come up with new demands. I think what's that? Dude, I was trying to find this. Rollo, was it you or Royce who talked about the 427 point bullet list?
436 bullet point checklist. That was actually Royce, by the way.
That's the one. I couldn't find it. I was trying to find it on Patreon for the longest time. But yeah, they're going to come up with all these demands, and then you're going to feed all the demands, and then they're still not happy, so they're going to make more demands thinking that it'll fix it. And it's like, the best move is not to play. I don't know why these guys keep doubling down on it, other than they have no idea what they're doing.
And that's exactly what guys are doing. And I'm sorry, go ahead. Fitch, I was
going to say that's the point that Ryan just simplified it. It's you don't play the game. The expectations and standards. This is in part why I wrote the book of numbers, is to do a ROI calculation. Like, look, you got to do a cost benefit analysis on this pursuit, because we're not talking like, okay, you go to the gym, blah blah blah, and then you'll get a girl. No, we're talking like you're going to ruin your life trying to pursue this goal that is not attainable, and the goalposts are constantly moving. We're not talking like, you work hard, there's going to be some fringe benefits, but you will ruin your life if you try to succeed. And then you get like the Prager's and the Pools and these kind of traditional conservative types, like, just keep throwing yourself. It's like, whoa. No, we need to step back and come up with some new tactics that are actually going to work. Because the worst thing is you do everything they say, and then she go whatever. You don't get the girl at the end, and you dedicated your one finite life here on the planet to do that. Mm-hmm. So there has to be, you have to step back, remove your emotion, and certainly remove your hormones from it, and look and say, okay, they want me to do what? They want me to do this? I like, one, that's impossible. Two, I'm talking about this, how shit tests are starting to become illegal along the lines of let's you and him fight. And right. you gotta look out for yourself. Like, I need to have food, clothing, shelter, and get my finances together before I start. And is that even worth it with the free time on this planet that I do have? So it's almost comical to look at what these expectations are of these gals. And I think that's what we're trying to do here is kind of slap guys across the face and say, wake up and don't listen to Prager. Like, yep, just keep walking through that landmines, that field, there you go. You'll get the girl. And it's like, no, not only is there not a girl at the end, this is not worth your finite life.
Yeah. This was the article that our friend, Christina, what's the chick that Martinez, who was doing the poll. She was referring to this one right here. Nearly a third of men under 30 aren't having sex. Wow. She's finally Simone Hanna. I have no idea who that is finally coming to, the Red Pill 2018, because she's going to refer to some statistics here that have been around like since the GSS study of like 2018, I believe it was. The number of men under 30 not having sex has nearly tripled in the last decade. And why is this? Well, surely it's because it can't be because of women. Sure, virginity is nothing to be ashamed of, regardless of gender. But with a drastic statistic, what could possibly be driving an immense dip in male sexual activity? What possible? Because it couldn't possibly be women, right? The manly man's monopoly. I love this. Before we delve into who's not getting sex, let's look at who is. It's none other than the Chad. You know, the guy with the 6'5" beach body with big bright eyes and perfect hair. Probably a lot more than that. The good girl and the bad girl immediately swoon at. And the guy, the goofy guy, scoffs at. Okay, that's romantic comedy 101. This guy is a film trope. These men are much more real, and they walk among us. It's likely you've heard the 80-20 rule before. The top 20% of men monopolize 80% of the sex with women. That is patently false, and she once again gets that wrong. And wonder if this rule of thumb between beta males has some validity to it. The manly man is the guy who creates the underdog. All right. Some of us have referred to, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, the golden penis syndrome. And I forget the guy who actually coined this phrase, but he's
platinum.
The beta simps you'll ever meet. Where a handsome masculine man is able to reel in large amounts of women because he realizes he's a modern rarity for many. That's just the guy who knows his own. That's the guy. Remember when I wrote in my book, The Threat, there's nothing more threatening to a woman than a man who understands his own value to women, because and it's nothing more arousing as well. That's where I wrote that back in 2013. All right. And so here you have that guy. This guy also creates what's dubbed as the alpha widow. Wow, where do we hear that before? Isn't it great that Tomasiisms are now suddenly, they're
mainstream stolen and not credited.
Only took a decade. Only took him a decade, Rollo.
Yes, and then of course she butchers it in the end. This woman lands a chance with an alpha male and is forever branded by him. Every man who comes after him will simply not compare. No, that's not necessarily true. It's the man that it's 5 minutes of alpha trumps like a lifetime of beta. That's pretty much what it is. Go watch the end up. And Hannah, if you're watching this, go watch the end of Titanic. That will sum up what an alpha widow is.
There it is.
It's better than her Woody Allen movie she's picking now.
Yeah, although the 80-20 rule is still a disproven idea. Well, it's only disproven because you got it wrong. Let me explain to you what the 80-20 rule is. It's not that 20% of guys are monopolizing 80% of the sexual market. No, 100% of women want to get with the top 20% of guys. That's the 80-20 rule, and that is the basis of hypergamy, my friends. So whenever you hear somebody say, 20% of guys are monopolizing 80% of women, that is a butchery of what the actual Pareto principle is. And then, of course, she gets into the rise of porn culture, and it goes on and on and on. The decline of young marriages. And the reason I was interested in the rest of this, and by the way, this is not new data. Every link that is in that article links back to something from 2017, 2018. And it's suddenly this is a novel idea. Why? Because in 2022, it's finally okay to talk about this. It's finally okay to say, you know what? We have this generation of lost boys. We have this generation of guys who are just not measuring up to our old order way of thinking, our old order standards that we expect men to live up to. And what's wrong? Well, it can't be the women. It's got to be the guys, just like Cappy was saying before.
It's so easy to sidestep all this, though, isn't it? I think so. Well, here's what I think. I mean, I think it's all a big mind F, to not F-bomb on you. I don't know if we're at the time. Right, say that it's all big mind fuck. Okay. It's all big mind fuck. No, there's an objective element to the mind fuck, but it's what it is. Because look, women on a collective level are always going to continue to raise the goalpost or, move the goalpost or raise the bar, because that's what hypergamy is. They want the top 20%. If everybody moved down the field, then they would create new standards for the next 20% that you wouldn't meet, if you're not in it, right? And so who gives a crap? What you do, though, is the mindfuck is that you stay on your goals and on your purpose, and you don't give a shit. And then when you do that, you send the signal that you're higher value. It's a message of higher value. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to do certain things to show up and be attractive and whatnot. Sure, you got to do those things, but it's minimal. It's not, you don't have to be, 8-pack abs and super jacked and millions of dollars in the bank account to get a girl to like you. You know, if you do this mind fuck, which is to stay on your mental point of origin, what is that? Rule number 1, Rolo? I mean, that's all you do, and that's what Ryan's essentially saying. Just why you even do it? A girl is going to go for you. You know, it's a matter of not giving up your goals, values, and imperatives for a woman's goals, right? And I'm going to make my purpose facilitating her goals. As long as you don't do that, but that doesn't mean she doesn't get needs met with you, of course. Just that you're on your goals. She gets needs met by being with you. Mm-hmm. She sees you as great.
So,
you know,
I got a question for you. Actually, let me throw this up here real quick because this will be a really good lead into it. This is a fantastic philosopher by the name of Ryan Stone. He says, "Men value love, women love value." Okay. How does that gel with what our concepts of love are? I've said this a million times before. I'll say it again. This is actually Iron Rule of Tomasi number 6, is that women fundamentally lack the capacity to love a man in the way that a man expects that she should be able to love him. I've said this as well. Men love idealistically and women love opportunistically. So how does that affect that relationship? How does the fact that, like, you got to, just be on your own game, chase excellence, women will come after you, let them come to you kind of thing. Well, what are they coming to you for? Is it the romantic ideal, or are they coming to you because you are the best opportunity that they have when it comes to their long-term security? Because that's the question, really the question of this topic, but that's the fundamental question I will probably get into with Patrick Beck David. And also whenever I'm talking about we're talking about entitlements and standards and how men need to man up, it comes back to that one thing. Well, you're not economically attractive, or you're not economically what a woman wants, so you need to get better. And we can keep grinding the success machine, endlessly, because you're not going to solve your reproductive problem. No woman is going to fall in love with you unless you have a lot of money, unless you're on your game, unless you have that. So how does that affect the relationship? How does that affect family formation? How does that affect even, like, God forbid you're going to get married or whatever in modern times? How does that affect that decision? That's what that's really
what I love about this. Yeah, what I love about that is there's a situational awareness to it. Like the idea that if you want a girl to want to be with you, there has to be something in it for her, is such a groundbreaking discussion that people are just blindsided by it. Wait, women are human beings that want things? Well, fucking slap me sideways and call me Shirley. And that's it. Like all this stuff we're talking about, and your little chart over the age, like 18, 23, 35, and I can never remember what you call it. It's from preventative medicine. The epiphany phase timeline.
This timeline.
Oh, Jesus, you had that one ready. Good.
Yeah, I'm Johnny.
The beauty of this is you look from like here to here, and it's giving you a roadmap of what the girls in these demographics want. So if you're here, you want the fun foam party shit. And then they get here, they want to have babies and families. And then you get here, and they want to go back to foam parties and shit, but not feel old for doing it. Now, I'm not saying you got to dance like a monkey for this shit, but it's just a simple, like in business, it would make total sense. Find out what your demographic's after and market towards that. And everybody's like, yeah, sounds good. Apply that to women. They're like, no. All these women want fucking superheroes that do the dishes. You're just like...
Well, they want everything, but
they're human beings.
You're not going to get it. You're not,
and that's why marketing is such a wonderful skill, is because it's about understanding human behavior. So yeah, of course we're talking about this like a marketplace using economic terms, because that's work to make $14 trillion in consumer spending, which requires, big is beautiful and heavy at any size as a viable thing, because those chicks will buy 14 times the product that you buy. And that's why they aren't telling you that trucks are masculine.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Garen. You were going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I posted a link on the private chat. If you click on that image, that'll conclusively give you data. Women are looking for money. And for the overall theme of the discussion that we're having here, one of the more recent lines of thought I've been pioneering is trying to assess women's real interest in you guys. And I got to tell you, it's not like a measurement. They just don't have that interest in you that you would them, either in terms of volume or the type. they really, and you'll find that occasional gal that truly is in love with you, and that's rare and that's exceptional. But if we're talking generalizations and strategies, I mean, pull up that image if you can. I don't know how to do the internet thing, but there it is. Now the graphics are very small, but on the top, the x-axis, it goes from like $10,000 off to the right, which is $100,000, and the y-axis is age, going from young to old. That really doesn't matter. What matters is on the left is red, and on the right is green. And green means the most messages, and red means the least amount of messages relative to men's age. And you see that the men who make 100,000 plus, they get all it. You know, woman, thy name is whore. Okay. And I'm okay with you if you want to, just say so. Just say you want the guy who makes the money. Here is human behavior on mathematical display. And whereas we could talk emotion and human psychology and wouldn't it be nice, you got to get these numbers in your head. This is their behavior. This is what they want. And you know what? Let me ask you guys something. Let's say the woman gets the guy who makes 120,000, right? And she's 25 years old. She finally got a guy, Bobby, who makes 125,000. What is she going to want?
126,000.
She's going to want 150,000. It never ends. It never ends. And it's like, you're going to drive yourself nuts playing this game. And Paul had it right. And we've always said this before. Just do yourself, man. Go out, kick as much ass, do what you want, have no expectations. And that's the best, because at the minimum, you ain't going to waste your life. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's your numbers. That's what, and they'll never be happy.
Here's the thing though. So you can put numbers to a predictive framework of how they're making decisions, but they don't make decisions based on numbers though, right? They make decisions based on feelings, and they're just wired to feel different, which points them to more of a pragmatic selection of mates for either short-term or long-term, depending on the signals that mate gets given the time that they run into them. And so it's it's looking at, I mean, women are more sexually selective, even though sometimes they'll sleep with a guy very quickly, but that's because they've selected him for alpha traits, alpha qualities in that moment, giving what's going on. But they're vetting through kind of a checklist of, is this going to be dangerous for me? And then this is going to get me what I want. Whereas guys don't do that as heavily. We're not as wired to do that because we are more wired for sexual variety, and there's less consequences for us in terms like we don't get pregnant, right? And so we're wired to have that variety. But then there's to kind of play into the pragmatic nature of women and idealistic nature of men, is that we also understood, I think red pill, communities for a long time have been calling it the marriage goggles, but there's actually studies to talk about marriage goggles where they've done the studies where they've given guys a pheromone shot of oxytocin and showed them pictures of their long-term mate in comparison to other mates. And they noticed signals of the brain for like love and attraction was higher for their mate and actually reduced for the other women. Now, that doesn't mean they wouldn't have sex with other women, but they're always going to put the girl that they have the marriage goggles for at a higher tier than those women over time, given that bond. Now, this is because, we're out spreading seed, but we have a kid. Well, we want to have some sort of bond to that woman that would cause us to want to provide resources for that kid. Whereas for a female, the bond happens more right away after she makes the selection, but then can get reduced over time because they're not seeing that marriage goggles thing with women. There's just the research isn't demonstrating it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
So committed love boils down to a chemical squirt of oxytocin.
Kind of, well, and that's where
so all that stuff about love and Shakespeare and Ovid and all
just
that.
Take nose shots of oxytocin. But I mean, sex though gives it too.
I get thrown thrown rocks at me again, right? Because I will explain things in nuts and bolts terms, and and sometimes it's not even me doing the explaining. It's other guys who decided to get into this red pill space, and they will start talking about the Lost Boys generation, or even how fat people are, how, whatever the maladies of, the crisis of masculinity, and men need to man up and they need to be more acceptable. And really what it is it's not a care or an instinct or an empathy for guys. It's, we need more men to be marriageable. How do we do that? Well, they need to make more money. They need to be on their game. They need to do this. They need to do that. And all of this stuff with the only purpose of having done that, not for your own personal edification or your own benefit, but to benefit the women that are complaining that there aren't enough guys for them to marry. And therefore you get like women who want to get into poly relationships, or they want to get with a, share the successful alpha rather than being saddled with, and they don't have to be saddled to those guys. Now, the reason why I say that is because of this great new article here that Rolf Dengen has thrown for us. Even in Sweden, where women are not dependent on a man to thrive, men with limited access to monetary resources are less attractive as potential partners. Now, remember, this is all based on marriage. This is all based on long-term commitment, or the presumption, let's just say, of long-term commitment. Sexual exchange theory is a controversial theory describing heterosexual partners selection in terms of economic market factors. I won't list through this. I'll just give you the paraphrase of this just for sake of time. But the results, anyways, indicate that sexual exchange theory is a useful theory in a relatively gender equal society. What that says in a nutshell is that our innate instincts are still what they are, even when everything is as close to gender parity in a society as we can possibly get it. Women still want the guy that they can look up to. They still want the guy that they can admire. They still want, and they're the basis of the long-term commitment. I'm not just saying like, because Paul, pointed this out. There's a difference between arousal and attraction. Okay. Arousal is short-term sexual. He looks hot. I really want to bang that guy. Hot guy in the foam cannon party. That's the arousal side of hypergamy. It's alpha fucks. The beta buck side is what we're getting into right here, and what everyone focuses on. Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, you name the trad con,
that's what they're in.
Name the trad con, because that's the only frame of reference they have when it comes to solving the crisis of masculinity. Well, we're only going to focus on what it is that women want. What is that? You got to make literally, you have to make 58% more money than they do. That's how you can be their equal. And that's, you have to have the same, education level. And so we're trying to, encourage guys to go to college, and we're trying to encourage guys to do all, find some way to become the best version of themselves in as old an order ideal as possible. And again, not for the benefit of the guys, but for the benefit of women. And so when they're exploring that, and they're saying, okay, like for instance, Rolf has this data set right here. When we're looking at that, it doesn't change. It hasn't changed over millennia, because that's simply the way that the brain is wired. But yet, we're still supposed to say, oh, men, you need to love idealistically. Yes, men, it doesn't matter, beautiful at any size. Don't have any standards. It's what's on the inside that counts, right? It's not what's on the outside that counts. Any standard you have is out the window, and every highest standard that women have for men is at a premium, especially right now. So when I see stuff like that, that's what I think is the paradox that these guys are running into, because just as Cappy was saying a second ago, is that it's, comes down to basically prostitution, right? Or we can call that's the not nice way of saying.
That's the harsh way, yes. But opportunism, perhaps.
Opportunistic. If I say opportunistic, then that, of course, that sets women off too. But it's like, for how long have we been saying, how long have we been saying, every by order of degrees, you're paying for sex, or you're paying for, the privilege of being with this person, and what is the exchange? And I think now in the 21st century, we're starting to ask those questions.
Serves them right for getting their dating advice from Matt fucking Walsh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to?
Well, let me point out something really quick, just again to open the audience's eyes to kind of say, and women too. Can you guys think of one instance where, and we're talking, these are conservative, Matt Walsh, Prager, all those guys, but generally where men have to man up. Have we heard anything about women having to woman up, or become more feminine, or like to give an incentive?
You never will, though.
On my show,
right. Well, I've not seen it. I wanted to point out, like, where is this? Oh, we need men to be more manly. Do. It's like, hey, when do you tell women to set down the effing ho-hos and get a freaking job and not come to the table with $800,000 in debt for a worthless degree.
Ooh, glad you brought
there's-
that one up.
Well, I mean, let me count the ways and the flaws, but that's the whole point. And ultimately, I think what will also help understand this discussion is what we're really in now is a market where you have a party that has nowhere near the interest in the exchange that the other party does. And this is the warped and stuff where it's like, I got this product, this commodity that the other buyer really, really wants, and I really don't want to sell it, and I couldn't care less about it. So this is why everything is falling on deaf ears. And even though the entire future of humanity depends on this exchange between men and women, women right now are very uninterested unless you exactly deliver what they want at that moment in time, which can be changed at any second. And what I'm saying is, well, Rollo, you hit it with an unconscionable contract. Of course, you're talking about that in terms of marriage. What I'm saying is, my goodness, the requirements make it that the vast, even of good men who would normally produce good children or good fathers, they cannot bring enough to this table. So you really have to take a look and what are women telling you with their behaviors and their decisions? Forget what they think at night, crying themselves to say, I don't care about that. What are they saying? They have very, very little interest in the average man, true, which is the vast majority of men. They have very, very little interest in having children. They have very, very little interest in getting married. And right now, as far as they're concerned, it's a career, materialism, maybe politics and all that. Now, post-wall and menopause, where I'm starting to get a couple female clients. Oh my God, do you know there's this thing called menopause and I want the children? No one cares about them. You know why? Because your eggs are gone. No one cares. No one. And then there's a horrifically switched reversal at that moment in time. But for young men and older men, any man who's interested in women who are young, have fertility and beauty, they have nowhere near the interest you do. Now, and the only way is, as Paul said, is you have to deliver such perfection out, blah, blah, at that short window of time, then you get it. But for those of everyone talking about kind of a long-term, loving, exchangeable, loving, committed relationship, my gosh, it is almost off the table for the majority. I hate to sound so black pill, but kind of look at their behavior. Like, if women liked you and all this equal, what would women do if women like men just as much and they're just as interested?
You chose.
They'd be asking you out. Have you guys gotten asked out ever in your life? I think it happened to me 2 or 3 times, and it was very, very like, hey,
awkward.
Maybe we should do. Yeah, like are you
Girls have no
out?
game. They'd have no game.
Does sending nudes to your DMs count as asking you out?
Yeah,
pretty much.
They're beautiful at any size. They're lovable no matter what. There's no.
Hey, Rollo has an article on that.
Well, it goes back to the judgment thing, right? It's all about it's non-judgmentalism that we've been entertaining since really the early 70s. Don't judge me, but I'm going to tell you something that you should judge me for. We don't want to be. I mentioned this in religion, right? Women can't sin anymore. They simply cannot sin anymore. Nothing they do is because they are automatically forgiven for it, or they shouldn't be judged for it in the first place. That's
modern religion is nothing the way it used to be either. It's all woke. It's woke Jesus.
Yeah. And why is that? Because we want a fail safe. We want an absolution of what we would normally judge women for.
Yeah.
How dare you have standards?
I mean, the church is doing sales also. They need practitioners to come in and donate money. And if the women aren't coming in with the money because they're the ones who spend, then the church goes out of business. So they've had to change the religion, and they don't follow the Bible or the written books anymore. They just do the woo-woo crap just so more women come in and they can tell them that how perfect they are, and men are trash still, and men have to work harder to be more Jesus-like and support her whore past and her kids from
single women's ministry. Yeah.
I would rather just be fun.
PTSD rage over here.
Yeah.
I want to throw some.
May I point out, giving example to the article you just had. So Evie is kind of a clickbait site that is, I think they're targeting guys and kind of red pill. And so we're kind of doing them a favor. And then you click on whatever Simone Hannaford, whatever her, you look at her, she's a 22-year-old college student. Of course, she's a babe, but this even presupposes that she is a real person and not a savvy guy writing a clickbait article site.
Mhm.
But in that, if we're to take it at face value, you have a 22-year-old girl who's like, Ermiger, do you know this is going on? It's like, yeah, it's been going on for it shows you how unplugged in, how out of touch and indifferent young, attractive women are to this. It's almost like fanciful. It's like, ooh, clickbait, look at this, men aren't getting laid. So it's more for their entertainment, but that's about the level of interest. And you almost feel like John McClane in Die Hard, like, welcome to the party, pal. Like he's been fighting the terrorists for an hour, and Powell finally rolls up with his fat ass. But you are not even going to get Powell to show up. These girls are going to be having kind of oh, isn't that interesting? Tee-hee-hee kind of interest. They are not going to be pulling up to the Nakatomi Plaza. I'd say just get out of the damn building is what I would say. But that is how unaware they are of this right now.
Completely clueless in the fact. I dated a girl, like it was over a year ago that we dated. And I asked her, I said, how many guys do you think are having sex regularly? She's like, 50. Like they think 50% of guys are having regular sex every weekend. And I'm like, it's like fucking 10% of the guys are actually having regular sex. It blew her mind. She couldn't believe it. And she kept being like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. That can't be right. She had no idea that the majority of men never reproduce. And it's gotten worse now that now they're not even having sex.
Yeah. I wanted to throw this on there. I know before I do though, I want to give Paul his last say because I know you have to take off early. So
yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Rollo. I just wanted to just sort of some actionable things. Everything that's being said here is true, but it sounded a little doomy, and on me, Mr. Positive here. Just some ways to sidestep some of that stuff, though. And a couple of things to remember is that we're breaking this down logically because that's how we think, because we're men. Women are pragmatic in how in their selection, but it's an emotional reaction. You know what I mean? She's not sitting here with a checklist and analyzing stuff and figuring out how she's going to properly game you to get all your money and not give you any sex. You know what I mean? This is like, it's an emotional reaction that she's having. So the way to sort of, I don't want to say sidestep, but hack some of this stuff, because you're never going to be, there's always someone's going to be bigger, stronger, faster, richer, right? All of these things. But the way that you kind of get through it is you stimulate her emotions. I mean, that's where game, frame, and some of these things happen. She has a certain standard and needs that are in her head, but this is especially true if you're the alpha, lays guy. Okay. When she's with you for genuine desire, which is why we talk about it, why it's so important, she will start to do the rationalizations with that caffeinated hamster in her brain to justify or see if those other needs are going to get met. It doesn't mean you could have $0 and live out of your car and have a great long-term relationship if that's not going to serve her, and her security needs. But that does mean that maybe you only make $75,000 a year, but you really hit those attraction triggers in her brain and you can really stimulate that other stuff. Now, a fresh and fit girl who is making 150 off of OnlyFans and who can only put 2 sentences together at once without a grammatical error, she might say she wants a guy who makes $400,000 a year. Okay, but that girl isn't for you, right? There's other girls who look just as good naked who aren't on Instagram, and maybe she's cool with a little bit of security you provide, given whatever she does and what she's up to, because you stimulate those attraction triggers and those other needs. And those needs kind of go along 5 categories, according to a counselor in the 80s. And I'll sum it up with this. It was sexual draw needs, emotional draw, meaning not your emotions to her, but her draw to you. That's kind of the alpha stuff. Then it was security, but security could be defined as, can you beat ass? Can you get resources? And would you spend the resources on her? 4th one is paternity. Are you a good dad? Or, can she like your photo that you have with a puppy, right? Stimulate the same part of the brain. 5th one is legacy. Would you be loyal to her or kick her to the curb after she hits the wall? And where she is on Rollo's timeline will determine which 1 or 2 of those triggers are in the forefront. And that's going to be, yes, a timeline. So obviously the 21-year-old girl isn't so much interested in the security needs, but maybe the 32-year-old woman now, security becomes more in the forefront. And so there's just some things to keep in mind. And it's not about finding the girl who and feeling like you're always in a deficit and you can never make it up. It's really finding that chick where you can stimulate those emotions, where she rationalizes and believes, because there is an objective element to it, that those other needs along those 5 categories are met enough for her want to continue to be with you. And that's it. That's it. I got to go, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Man. All right. Thanks for joining us today. I'm gonna pull you out, and I'm gonna put this guy in.
Oh no. Hey, Savo.
Yeah, Cave and Savo. Yeah.
There
Like
might
the
be a
Unabomber
faulty
vibes you got
connection,
going
like,
on.
Last time that I was in here with you guys, there was the one guy that was just like in bed streaming from his cell phone. Like that's me this time.
You'll be our
usually get a
John
formal
MLD
invite
substitute
because I roll
today.
over in bed. I worked late, so I woke up to it. I'm like, okay, I could just hop in Rule Zero like it's nothing. I might as well.
It's all casual here today. I wanted to put this into the stream here. This was from the Times. You know, what's funny is I see a lot more articles like this showing up in the Times newsfeed. I don't really follow the Times all that much, but it's like when when somebody throws this in my, like, hey, did you see this, Rollo? Let me at you in this. Then sometimes I'll go and have a look at it. I think what's interesting also, Ryan, is like, don't click on this because it's behind a paywall. But what I think was finally like somebody like woke the Times up to saying, you know what, people can't read the whole thing and they don't get the gist of the article because there's a paywall. So what do? Is they they give you this long thread of what the article actually says. So because they know it's going to get hit. So this was what the premise of it was, is why the gender pay gap matters, right? In bed. We know that historically, at least, marriages where women out-earned men were less stable. Yeah, well, thank you for finally coming up to that one. Is a successful woman's strategic deployment of fake orgasm exactly what it takes to plug the gap in male ego? Now, of course, what they want us implying here that women have to fake orgasms for guys who make less money than they do, just to pat hubby on the head and say it's okay, don't worry, you're doing a good job. Jessica Jordan is a psychologist researcher at the University of South Florida, surveyed a small sample of 157 women, which of course makes the Times, about a third of whom earned more than their male partners. This is a higher proportion than the number of women who out-earn their partners in Britain. According to the ONS, the percentage of households in which female partners earn more than her male partner has steadily risen from 19.8% to 23.3% in 2019. The breadwinning wives in this study were twice as likely to say that they faked an orgasm than those who earned less than their husbands. Though this is too small a study from which to draw conclusions, let us make a big long thread about it anyways. What on earth is a female orgasm for? Blah blah blah. We can debate that left and right. Okay. According to Lisa Welling, a psychology researcher at Oakland University, evidence tends to show roughly half of women report faking orgasms at some point, twice the proportion of men. Men are reporting faking orgasms. Okay.
I actually. Oh, later. No, never mind.
Anyways, here's the thing. I'm not going to go belabor that one too much longer.
Again,
but now it's not. Now it's not even so much
unattractive that she has to fake an orgasm.
Right. Exactly. You don't make enough money, so therefore I can't get off. That's really what that says.
That's really that's what it is.
To make you feel bad.
This man is lesser than me, but I'm giving him pity sex.
Right.
because he probably serves her in some other way. Right. It's not the money, but he probably takes care of her kids from some other man or something. And so she gives him pity sex.
You're correct. Yes. Statistically, that's right. But here you have another angle to all of this. Like, we can talk about what they don't get into in that article, by the way, is the fact that when a man and a woman are making the exact same amount of money in a marriage, already committed, already well past what Paul was saying, we already got there. We're married. We're committed, whatever it is. You're in a long-term relationship right now. When you go into that relationship where the guy's making a little more, or maybe he's at about the parity level with his wife, and that woman gets a a rise in pay, or she gets a promotion at work, that is what precipitates divorce initiated by the woman. That was one stat that they will not talk about. They simply don't want to have to confront that. But it sounds a whole lot better if they have to fake orgasm for a guy who doesn't make as much money, and that we can go.
And it's for his ego,
right?
It's for his ego. That's why she's doing it.
Yep, exactly.
At least she still cares.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe. Next one's for you.
Yeah. We'll circle back to that one.
Look at the article, the premise, and then Evie and all that. Look, people, especially young men or men, you shouldn't even be bothering reading this. This is not journalism. That wasn't research. Psychology, sorry, Rollo. Psychology is bullshit anyway, and all their psychological studies.
Most of it, yes.
Huge validity crisis. You got to consider what you're consuming, very much like your diet here. This is again why I always like numbers and data and statistics, because that I know because you could see the data. But yeah, what good does it do? Like, ooh, if the woman makes more than me, you got to worry about what's in front of you more than anything else. And so it's a clickbait in the New York Times. Remember when the New York Times was reputable? This is before Ryan was around. Yeah. When it meant something to be a lawyer. Yeah, that's how much this has decayed. So if it's all going to be girly gossipy clickbait to get a bunch of New York gals, whatever, marketing experts making their money over in Manhattan.
Well, if you like that
this
one,
was not intended. If
you like that one, you're going to love this one. Yeah. Wow. The Times, again, also following the same format. They know that they can't get you to read this through the paywall. So in 2016, I had a minor experience at a dinner party that became a major life-changing event, writes A. Lutkin. Ann Lutkin. I was 32 years old and I was single. My friends, in a friendly way, asked me that night, "So, what's going on with your love life?" Nothing had been going on for quite some time, and I was pretty sure nothing ever would get going. I voiced my deep suspicion that I might end up being alone forever, which is something we hear quite often from women right now because they simply don't want to change anything about themselves. When we talk about, I'll keep going here in a second, but when we talk about how it is that we always look to the guys because as men, we have a burden of performance. Okay. So our sexual marketability, let's just say our lovability is based on whatever that performance is and what that value has to that woman. That's why we call it a high value guy. A high value man is X, Y, and Z. Okay. So when we look at that and we start talking about you're not measuring up, we never say, well, how is it that women are not trying to at least in some way improve themselves so that they can measure up to men's expectations as well? Why is there not a similar standard for women to woman up? And the problem that happens is this, and I've done several shows about this as well, is when I am talking to a woman who is a professional woman, like she's gone through college and she's, takes care of herself, looks pretty good. She's 27, 28, 29 years old, just pre-epiphany phase, or maybe even after that. And they'll hit me up and they'll say, Rollo, I can't find a good guy. Where are the good guys? I can't find a good man. And of course we want to say, well, they were back when you were 23 and you blew those guys off, right? That may or may not be true depending on what that chick is. More likely it is. However, when that woman is asking me men, what do men want? What do I have to do to get a guy in a long-term relationship? And I say, well, look at what you've made yourself out to be. You're a boss bitch. You're an alpha female. You've got a professional, career. You've got a degree right now. You're basically the man that you want to marry. You turned yourself into the man that you want to marry. And they say, okay, well, great. But what do I have to do to find, how can I get a guy? It was the same thing. I don't know if you guys caught the show I did with the Steve Harvey episode where there was a woman who was 36 years old and she's there with her mom and she's just waiting on Jesus to just drop a man in her lap and put him on the front doorstep because she's waiting for that guy to just pick up and go with her. And of course, Steve Harvey drops the ball and fumbles around like Steve Harvey does. But it was an interesting conversation to me anyways, because it's the same one I'm having with women right now who ask me, how can I do this? How can I become more feminine? Because that's what I say, that, you got to be hot. You got to be feminine. You got to be available. Just like what Brian was showing us statistically speaking. And how am I supposed to tell them you need to be something completely different from what you've made yourself over the last 30 some odd years? You dumb yourself down. That's what it sounds like I'm saying. I didn't say dumb yourself down. Okay. I'm saying that it sounds like when a guy says you need to be more feminine, you need to, take care of yourself. You need to defer to his authority. You need to be submissive. You need to whatever, those kinds of feminine qualities. And to them, it sounds like I'm telling them to put the shackles on and go into the jail cell, or to become something that they're not. And literally, that's what I'm telling them. Become something that you're not. And so they can't understand why guys can't measure up to where they are and want to be what they want them to be, where at the same time, they're not what those men want them to be. They don't want that boss bitch. They don't want to marry another man. They want to marry a woman. They want to get into a relationship with a woman. So when I say stuff like that, it sounds like I'm saying, dumb yourself down. And women great at that. And that's how you get articles just like that one. I'm going to be lonely forever. I guess I should just accept it.
Here. Well, I was going to say another thing in sympathy with these gals, and this would be anyone in a long-term environment, and roll with your background in psychology, but neuroplasticity works in some places and it doesn't. You're talking when, 30 years, that woman, that human mind has been conditioned and programmed and fed a diet of, you go girlism, independence, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden they're supposed to make a switch. And it's hard, especially in something as involved and emotional and psychological as being attracted to the opposite sex, falling in love and things like that. And where I feel a little bit sad about it is because I've had the same thing. Go look at a couple of videos, a couple of guys like, how do I find the guys? I'm like, all right, you got to go to the gun range. You got to go to the cigar lounge, be thin. That's just the checklist on that. And I'm like, okay, well, you're going to probably have to ask out guys, because men have also been conditioned a little bit like, whoa, don't ask her out. Okay, that's harassment. I don't want to bother, blah, blah, blah. And then the percentage of women that actually execute on this, zero. Absolutely zero, because now you're asking them to change behavior. You're asking them to become kind of something that they're not. And that hasn't even addressed when you give them advice to, become more feminine, they view that as an insult and an affront to what they've built everything up to become. I'm wondering if after a while they're not capable and going from, they're not going from boss bitch in New York to submissive housewife in Japan. And serving you your tea and your cookies, and that's a pretty big,
an extra scoop of rice, I think, is what it is.
Right.
Speaking of which,
what's up, boys?
The champ is here.
So what are we complaining about this week?
Women ain't shit.
I'll say this.
Actually, I'm not complaining about women. I'm complaining about guys interpreting what it is that women want.
Well, look, the thing is, these bitches don't know what they want, so you got to tell them what they want. Because the moment you go down the path of let me try to please this woman, let me try to fucking do this, you're better off just being like, look, this is the way I want it, and if you're not gonna fucking give it to me, then you gotta go, and I'm gonna find another girl who's gonna give it to me the way I want it. Yes. And you just have to go through these chicks. Because I think I'm the youngest one on the panel, and who's like actually out in the field.
Savo's 12 years old. He just got out of the 6th grade.
I don't acknowledge Savo as a member of Rule Zero yet. He has to hold his way up to my approval. But
weren't you the one that was in bed last time?
What do you mean?
Weren't you the one that rolled out of bed last time and called in? That's what I did this time.
That's what you do when you make $1 million. You make the rules. But the point I'm trying to say is, like, you guys don't understand. Like, you have to tell these girls what you want, how you want it, and how you want it done. I'm not talking about sexually. I'm talking down to like the food you want, down to like how you want her to rub your back, how you want her to clean your house. Because, dude, you guys, I think a lot of you guys are kind of duped. These girls are really, really, really good at pretending like they have their shit together. These girls go home and cry themselves to sleep. Straight up. You think I'm joking? You think I'm fucking joking? 100%. I guarantee nobody on this panel has gone through a modern girl's cell phone and read her text messages between her and her best friend. Okay, I've done that plenty of times. And to see the facade that they put on to the whole planet to pretend like they're okay, to pretend like they got their shit together, and they really don't, dude, it is terrifyingly sad as fuck. It is super sad. And
I was gonna say super funny, but okay.
No, but because you haven't read what I read, I'll send it to you, Aaron. But it's really red pilling too. But these girls are irrevocably lost, and these chicks are absolutely like they're getting pumped and dumped to the grave because that's what they reduce themselves to.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I haven't scrolled through any of these younger girls' text messages, but I've dated enough of them to like see their social media, see how they talk about themselves, see how they talk about things, and they're putting up these massive fronts, like they got their shit together, but they're on so many pills, they're on massive amounts of pills,
birth control, you name it.
They're miserable, absolutely miserable, and it's really man, like you have a lot of pity for them.
Why is that my responsibility? Our responsibility?
It's not your responsibility.
Yeah, I know, but like look at how far we go to this and that and that and this. And John's absolutely right. Are you it? You're not. Get out of here. You're not. Get out of here. But I crocodile tears for all these gals doing this to all the guy. We don't need to talk to shit. Look out. I'm LaShonda. I don't. Aaron, those same girls, you're on Xanax. All right.
Those same girls literally drink and cry themselves to sleep.
Awesome,
literally, dude.
Awesome. Don't care. Not my problem.
I know. And I'm just saying for the guys out there, this is not for you because you get it. You're on the panel, right? But for the guys out there that are absolutely thinking that they are lesser than these girls who are putting up a major front to the world. These girls are broken, dude. These girls are getting pumped and dumped, and every dick that they take, they know inherently they're lowering their value. But it's the only thing they know. These girls don't know how to get a man. These girls don't understand men, and these girls are being indoctrinated to hate men on top of that.
Yes.
So when you have all these things constantly compounding, dude, like that's why I always tell the guys, what is the core for? Make money, make muscles, learn game, hold frame. Because if you don't learn those core 4 things, you are just as fucked as these broken chicks. Because I know we all like to sit around and shit talk girls and stuff, but the guys who watch this show, the majority of the guys, more than 70% of these guys don't have their fucking shit together. But they feel like a big bad alpha male because they can come on here, send some super chats, talk some shit, and then go back to living their fucking obese, lower middle class lifestyle. And the reality is you're going to be suffering too as a guy if you're not focusing on the core 4. I mean, look at me, dude. Look what I've done in like less than 3 years. I went from literally zero to multi-million-dollar earner. 3 years executing a business plan. I'm 36. I wasted my 20s doing drugs, partying, being a fucking moron. Imagine if you're a guy watching us, you're 23, 24, 25, 27, and you decide to like actually stop with the fucking endless hate of these bitches, because these bitches, like, hating on these bitches is not going to make your life better. It's not going to make them better. But if you working on yourself, getting a hardcore skill like Aaron talks on his channel, like don't go fucking major in philosophy, right? Get a hard skill, work on yourself, money, muscles, game, frame, and this shit will compound and you'll get better over time. At 36, I have my pick of the litter. I have so much options in front of me because I moved to Japan. I moved to the other side of the world. I just came from fucking shithole Colombia. The girls, they're all over there, all about me too. I have my options to go anywhere I want in the world, quite frankly, barring visa restrictions. And I can make whatever life that I want right now. It took me 3 years to get here. What are you going to do? The time's going to pass anyways. So if you do want a girl, that's why I'm saying this shit, Aaron, because a lot of these guys in the audience, they don't want to be like endless womanizer. They don't want to fuck a bunch of girls. A lot of these guys watching us, they just want one girl to go home to.
Right.
Maybe some side pussy once in a while.
That's why OnlyFans is a big deal. That's
but in order
or virtual one girl.
Right. But in order to get that, you have to realize that you guys have to fucking absolutely tell these girls exactly what you want, how you want it. When the tears come on, like Aaron says, like, no. We're using words right now. We're using words right now.
Do not cry.
It's not time to cry. It's time to be an adult. You're posting all this, I'm a bad bitch. I'm number one, right? You're posting all that shit on Instagram. You're acting like you have your shit together. Now, this is where it counts. So get your shit together, right? Tough girl. And you tell them exactly the way you want it. And if they can't comply, it's fucking sayonara, baby. Because listen, at the end of the day, guys like me, bro, you hear that? If you listen closely, you can hear that right now. That's the sound of a girl turning 18. Okay?
Yep.
And guess what? These girls that don't want to get their shit together, these girls inherently around the world, they all know the ticking time bomb of fucking father time is coming for those ovaries to dry those things up. Because they know at the end of the day, they want babies as well. They all do. They all get babies.
I think that and I agree with what you're saying here, because what you are presenting here, anyways, John, is the sort of the opposite side of what I see going on in this, the popularization, let's just say, of the mainstream wanting to confront these topics. And of course, the first place they go is they say, well, men need to become more responsible. You need to be more, man up and become more acceptable for women. And that's where that's the difference here. When you come on to my show, when you go on to John's show, when you go anywhere else, especially anybody in the Rule Zero family here, we're not here saying man up so that you can be a better match for this chick or measure up to their standards. We actually have we want you to be the best version of yourself, because that's what you ought to be, right? Not because you're trying to live up to this old order ideal of, well, we got to get more babies. We got to have more marriages. We got to get guys back on the plantation. That's not why we're saying get better. We're saying get better because that's because of you. You need to get better, right? Mm-hmm. And as a result of you getting better, then as a side benefit of that, chicks will want to get with you. As a side benefit of that, you're more productive. You make more money. You live a better lifestyle as a result of that. And so when you hear someone like, say, Matt Walsh or Dave Rubin or Steven Crowder or whoever else is talking about the crisis of masculinity right now, it kind of wedges into that stuff about, men take more responsibility and become the best version of yourself. But they're not telling you that because they have some sort of empathy for you. They want you to be more acceptable for women so that we can solve this, marriage crisis or whatever it is that they're harping on about that time, because that fits in with whatever their ideology is. So the crisis of masculinity, the Lost Boys generation, the reason they're addressing this or trying to solve this right now has nothing to do with men. It has everything to do with women. That's why. So when women say, I can't find the right guy, I can't get a guy who's 58% more money than it is not economically attractive. I can't find the right guy. I can't find the right guy. I have to dumb myself down to get the right guy. When we have that conversation, it's all about the needs and the necessities and the prerequisites of women, not about the well-being of the man.
And then going back to for the guys that do want a sustainable relationship, right? Dude, you guys got to realize this. There's no fucking Rule Zero for chicks out there. There's no hope. They are they are unabashedly fucking, they're lost, dude. There's it's hilarious, really. But
if anything, they have the negative of that,
dude.
They have people around them telling them the opposite.
It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And these girls are so, bro, women are just lost, bro. They can't think for themselves. When was the last time you seen a women-led revolution?
May I point out something to kind of echo this? And Roll and I are kind of the older ones, and Roll, I'd be kind of curious on your view of this. But if you think, your parents would say, oh, there's karma, don't worry, they'll get theirs in the end. And as a young person, you understand that. Dude, karma is a mother effer to women when they are post 40. The handful of times, I don't go to high school reunions or anything, but I do have friends on the Facebook, and I see it out there. You want to talk about Generation Spinster? I present to thee Generation X women. And they're now slowly getting to the point oh, yeah, it's too late to even do in vitro. Okay, I can't find a guy. And they're kind of like wounded puppy dogs wandering out in the desert. It's just, well, there's something missing. Yeah, no shit, bitch. You think so? But the indoctrination, and getting back to that inelasticity of their minds, they think of a different thing. They're over it. Their life is over. It's over. Okay, you got your career, you got this. Maybe you had some kids along the way, but they're off doing their own thing. You're not going to be a grandmother. There's not going to be people coming over for Thanksgiving. You don't get to get your grandkids any Christmas gifts, unless your children actually went out forth and had that. So there is, as in every system, whether that's physical, economic, psychological, philosophical, there is balance. I'm not saying you should be looking for this for revenge or comeuppance, although that I told you so is one of the best things to say. But John is right. These guys, now I don't know how much they cry themselves to sleep, but this
A lot.
bullshit. This front does have a payment. It does have a consequence. And so John has it exactly right. And I hate to agree with John because he's such
Just get used to it. Just get
I
used to it.
know.
It's okay. It's a
So
hard case.
You got to give up girls like heroin. You got to focus. And John, once you stop chasing girls and pussy, what happened? You focused on yourself. You became who you are.
No, I never. I made my masters chasing pussy. That's why I was saying, guys, it's the
Okay,
core
all right. But you didn't put it just like
no. Listen,
give you a compliment. Can I just give you a compliment? All right, there. So there's that.
But I want to add to this because I can't tell guys to just put off women and focus on themselves, because when they become rich and they they level up their finances, but their game competency is level 1, you have like higher level predatory women coming after you that are like ultra manipulators.
Generally speaking, a good thing is for a young man to stop chasing pussy and go to the gym and you focus on your etc. I'm not saying don't ask out girls, but then your technique, hey, here are the rules. You don't match them, get the F out. And you just get through them like that.
Be ruthless.
If you want like a takeaway, those 2 bits of strategy is a really good, simple P51 plan that pretty much every guy can execute on. And then if you just want to see where this ends up, look at my generation of women. You're like, oh, dang. Oh, okay. All right.
The thing is, like,
you have to, you have to work like a man. You have to work like a man. You have to be obsessed about what you're working towards, what you're trying to achieve, and you have to date like a woman. Work like a man, date like a woman. Okay?
Yeah.
You got to be ruthless, absolutely ruthless. If they don't meet the standards, they're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing is too, like, the reason I say that, Clary, is because like when you were younger, like, in the 1700s, the fucking
me and Daniel Boone, yes.
You could release your sexual tension because there's actually dateable women out there. They weren't poison. You know what it's like when you're horny. You can't think. You're like, I have got to fuck like right now. And that's why these guys are like, okay, fucking single mom, I don't have a condom. Okay, I'm gonna come inside her. Oh, okay, now my life is ruined. So like you have to fucking balance it. And especially if you're telling like don't chase chicks, just go to the gym. It's like, I'm just building the horny tank even more,
building the horny tank.
And I'm, of all the people on the panel, I'm the most pro seeking arrangement, paying for it simply because I'm an economist and you all pay for it. So, I mean, I know that's
finance it or go the direct route.
You just gotta like I said, it's hard out there, but being a loser is way harder. Without a shadow of a doubt. Waking up and like, oh, I don't have money. Oh, wait, I don't have options. Because the thing is, if you read the book, this book will change your guys' life. I used to read this book when I used to ride a bus to go build fences in Hawaii for like $14 an hour in 2014. And the name of the book is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And if you read this book, and it talks about how as long as you're consistently putting in effort in something, let alone throughout your life, eventually it's going to add up, and one day you're going to be a master at it. So building a business, building your game, building your fucking money-making skills, right? The thing is, a lot that nowadays, right? Naval said this. He says the worst thing of our generation is cheap dopamine, right? We're like, how many of you guys at home? I don't have fucking Instagram notifications on. I don't have Twitter notifications. I don't, dude. My own mom is muted on my text message. My phone makes the sound if PayPal or Stripe goes off. That's it. Grab my phone. I'm like, okay, I know it's important. I don't give Gumroad. I don't give a fuck if my emails come in. I don't give a shit if somebody DMs me on Twitter or fucking Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I do not give a good goddamn. All I care about is that. And Charlie from Cultivate Crypto, if he texts me, my phone does this, because if he texts me, that's the money coming. Other than that, I've got my focuses lined up, right? Now what am I working on, right? I'm working on my health. I'm working on building my 3rd YouTube channel, which is about to launch this year. I'm working on my TikTok, right? You guys are so caught up wasting your time on shit that doesn't fucking matter, and you're acting like you're gonna live forever. You're gonna fucking die, and it's forever. And as you get older, even me, dude, 36, self-made multi-million-dollar earner, whatever, it's still harder getting older for me, and I'm fucking rich, right? So like, I could only imagine having to like wake up and sludge my way through a 9 to 5 as I'm aging and dealing with the sexlessness and dealing with a fat body and all this bullshit that you could just cut out if you put the core 4 into practice throughout your life: money, muscles, game, frame. If you focus on those 4 things from 18 years old, even if you fuck your whole life up and you have to start at 30, from 30 until death, if you focus on money, muscles, game, frame, you're going to be set. You're not going to be worrying and bitching about girls and bitching about this and bitching about that. You're going to have abundance. Your life is going to be fucking awesome. That's the biggest thing I'm trying to say here. And then, and again, when it comes to these girls, dude, listen, a lot of you guys like, I want to find a good woman. I want to find a good woman. No. You don't find a good woman, bro. You find a woman that's not as damaged, and then you make her the good woman.
Exactly. Yep. 101, straight out of the rational male, my friend. You do not find a relationship, you build a relationship. It is a project. It's not like, it's not
Building
like,
and maintaining.
and especially I should say, not for guys. There's no such thing as a turnkey relationship. Like, oh, I just walked in and everything was good to go. Like, I think that's really telling, because I think that turnkey relationship thing is an expectation of women right now.
Yes.
I deserve the best, and so therefore I just he's just going to waltz into my life, and we're just going to go from there, right? Turnkey relationship didn't have to do anything. What is it? Rich Cooper talks about all the time, waiting at the finish line and banging the winners. They think they're going to be the girl at the finish line, and the guy's going to come along and go, oh, you, okay, let's keep going, right? That is like not going to happen for the vast majority of women today. Dude. But that's the expectation. It's kind of like your retirement plan is to find a suitcase full of money. That's what it really boils down to, right? But
that's the plight of the modern woman, because there's a girl I interviewed on my channel, right? She's this fucking super hottie. Her name's Towa, Towa. If you check her out on my channel, Interview with the Lady. And I was chatting with her. She's a Japanese girl. She's a model. She's fucking smoke show, super hot. And I was chatting with her, and I was like, so what's your plan in life? She's like, oh, well, I'm just gonna like hang out and like have fun in my, from age 20 to like 30. And she's like, and then when I'm 30, I'm gonna get married. And I'm like, so, because these girls, they're delusional. They think like, I'm just gonna go to the husband store and get the perfect man and have the perfect husband and live the perfect life, because the whole world is all about me and everything.
She's gonna have fun for 10 years as a plan.
Yeah.
Yo, dude. Sabo, you have no idea how women think like that. No,
but
idea.
You don't have to admit it like that on a live show.
That's
going to stop her.
Or they will.
Yeah. That's the arrogance of it all.
Hey, if you shut up long enough, women will tell you everything about themselves.
When I wrote Preventive Medicine, which is where this timeline is from, I put the party years in there because I was like trying to be as like polite as I possibly could, but then
instead of the hoe phase.
Instead of the hoe phase, right? And the reason why I even know it's the hoe phase is because so many women on Twitter and on Instagram and on where on their social media were talking about, I'm having a really great hoe phase, and then I'm going to try to stick the landing at the when I get to be 29, 30, 31 years old. That's a Dalrockism, by the way, to stick the landing when they get to the epiphany phase. But people just gave me so much shit about like that timeline right there. And here we are 2 or 3 years later, or maybe 4 years later, after I had already published that book. Now it's the hoe phase. And we're all upfront about it.
Me and my friends knew about the hoe phase.
And all that stuff when I was saying, okay, it's no longer a secret. It doesn't have to be a secret anymore. Women's sexual strategy, women's mating strategy, women's life strategy, which really amounts to this right here. And really this as well. To work within that framework, that's all above board. Everything is online now, and it is a part of every podcast. It is just like John is saying. We will beat this to death. It's on the Times. It's on we name the major mainstream media outlet that isn't already on board with open hypergamy, which I called back in 2014. And again, it's like the whole phase, this, that, we can give it cutesy little names. It's still the same thing, and it's still the same time.
Well, what it is,
I found. Hold on, I want to talk about the host phase real quick. Let me talk about the host phase real quick.
Early 2000s, me and my friends, we knew about the hoe phase. We knew about the party phase. We knew not to take girls too seriously from 18 to 23. We knew that before there was any manosphere, or even before Rolo started writing his stuff. Like, that was just known. It's like, be careful, because you're going out to college parties and stuff. You see these girls that have long distance boyfriends that go to different schools, or the boyfriend's still at their old hometown or whatever. You see them hoeing out. You see the girls with a boyfriend who's, you know, always studying, but they go out to the football players party or the secret basketball players party, and they're getting trained by the team guys. And like we knew back then, before any of this was written on paper.
Go ahead, John. You were saying?
No, I was just gonna say this. You talk about girls claiming that they're having a good time in their hoe phase. Dude, they are not. These girls, listen, I have found like secret Twitter accounts for girls I've been dating, right? And these same girls will be like tweeting about how fucking I'm girl boss, I'm this and I'm that, and that same night
They're miserable.
come to my place and cry in my arms and be like, "Why won't you be my boyfriend?" You know, it's all a facade. That's what I'm saying. I will slightly push back on John Fitch when he says 18 to 23, like, don't try to wife these chicks up. I would say this: if you're the boss enough and you're like, no, this is what I want, and you have what she wants, and you're like, no, give me your phone. I want to see who you're fucking texting, because if you're gonna want commitment from me, I need to see what's going on. So let's see who you're following on Instagram. Let's see who you're fucking texting all the time. Are you keeping on contact with all your exes? Why the fuck are you doing that? Right? Do you want me texting my exes? Of course she's going to say no. So if you're able to take total control of the situation, because that's really what is recommended.
Yes.
That's what's necessary nowadays, is like, you need to fucking quarantine your girl from her own stupid decisions. That's really what it boils down to.
Men don't want to give themselves permission to take authority. That's why.
Yeah.
Hey, Rolo, can I say something real quick?
Yeah, good.
Real quick, because this conversation started based on looking at articles about, you know, marriage and the orgasm thing and everything. Have you noticed that even in my lifetime, you know, because I'm much younger than everybody, but even in my lifetime, I watched the magazines come off the shelf that are no longer there, that were giving somewhat more practical advice to women on how to keep a man, how to please your man, tricks he'll love in bed. In certain respects, like how to be properly submissive to get the best result out of what you want with a relationship with a man. And that's all disappeared, I've noticed, just in my lifetime. And any kind of advice that's aimed towards women is more how to either manipulate your man or how to get him to work for you and how to work inside your frame. But then once a woman reaches that point where you actually have like a simp-like character that's operating in your frame, you're going to be upset with him anyways. I don't understand that.
Right.
But have you noticed that there was always a male targeted advice forum and a female targeted advice forum? And I also feel like if you take it back 10, 15 years, it wasn't even seen as manipulative material or misogynistic. It was just guys want to know how to get women and women want to know how to get guys. But the female aimed advice part of it has disappeared.
Because it was looking for, it was predicated on an idea that women were dependent on men. And that's where you get that independence thing from. Like when I was reading that article about the, actually, where is it? It's right here. The one that, what was it? Oh, the egalitarian thing right here. So even in Sweden, where women are not dependent on men or a man to thrive, men with limited access to monetary resources are less attractive as potential partners. Now, in everything gender parity right there, right? But it still backs, John, it still backs up that the idea that women are looking for a man that they can look up to. They're still looking for a man who, and how do they look up to them? He's got to make more money. He's got to be more educated. He's got to be 6 foot tall. He's got to have 6-pack abs. He's got to be an authority. He's got to be somebody who she can actually admire. And when they're even Steven or a guy is a little bit below, that ends up becoming that guy is not the guy that she wants to get with, at least on paper anyways. Like when she was saying, this is what I want to get with, this is my ideal, my expressed ideal is this. And then as egalitarian a society as we can do it, we still revert back to conventional gender roles. Imagine that.
Well, and what they admit on, go ahead, Rolo. Go ahead, buddy. Sorry.
I was just going to say, but that goes back to what Kevin is talking about here is like those magazines, Better Out Homes and Gardens, or, whatever it was that was sort of
Cosmo.
like, Yeah, exactly. The old school stuff that's based on a pre-sexual revolution mentality that is that like women have no concept of anymore because they are strong, independent women, that they've been fed that narrative and that timeline and that the ideal of, you know, if you do anything for the express pleasure of a man, then you betray the strong, independent woman ideal, and you not only for yourself but to other people as well. Now, will women go against that? Absolutely they will, because they want to get with the guy that they want to have babies with, right? So ideally they want to get with the guy who answers, you know, is he the best I can do? You know, is he a guy that other men want to be and other women want to fuck, right? If the answer is emphatically yes, then they will betray the strong, independent woman narrative. But until that time, and most of them never get to that point, they will say, I guess I'm going to die alone. I guess I should convince myself that I'm happy in my isolation and my loneliness at 37 some odd years old. And let's go to the Times and see if we can write an article about it.
And to help explain to Kevin, because I'm kind of surprised you even remember those magazines. But
yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, and I remember it was Cosmo. But notice how in those times the women were attractive and thin and blah, 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 because again, predicated on traditionalism, and you wanted to get a guy for stability and all that. Now it's all fat and you got plus size lingerie and all that. What will help you and younger men understand is also the financial incentive here. Because as John says, there's this huge, massive front. I would call it more than a front. I would say it's a religion, because you no longer have men and family as point and purpose in your life. You have rah-rah, she-rah, feminism, indoctrination, careerism, all that other stuff. And so what these companies are doing are profiting off of that. So there's always a profit incentive.
Yes.
So like you would look at something, a perfect example, this would be plus size lingerie. You're like, that's stupid. It's contradictory. It has nothing to do with making a woman beautiful. It's fat chicks want to delude themselves into thinking they're pretty. So now we have plus size lingerie.
It's not even that.
What I mean, it's not. There's all I'm saying is there's a financial incentive which will explain a lot of this contradiction that you might run into.
It's big, dude. All these girls that think they're so smart and so independent and so woke, they've just been brainwashed by like elite level marketing to believe that, yes, you are a fat pig, and that's beautiful. Make sure you buy our fatpiglingerie.com. That's it. Yeah. Like, these girls think they're so, like, nobody gives a shit. Like, okay, let's talk about Black Lives Matter, right? Nobody cares about Black Lives Matter right now in 2022. You know why? Because in 2020, it was all the rage. Why? Because Apple was telling you Black Lives Matter. Instagram was telling you Black Lives Matter. Facebook was telling you. Twitter was telling you. Home Depot, every fucking corporation was telling you. Now these white bitches don't give a shit about Black Lives Matter. What's the next thing they all care about? Oh, you gotta vax up. You gotta take the vaccine. Mask up, vax up. That's the next propaganda. They don't know if they're coming or going. And these chicks,
I still think it's Fat Pig Lingerie. I think that's the next calling.
Fatpiglingerie.com. Get on the
new
list.
Brand. Yes, there's my new brand. White label lingerie for Fat Pig.
By Victoria's Secret. my sons walking by Victoria's Secret, like shaking their heads. They're like, "What is that?"
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is this, right? They have separated men and women from each other instead of coming together, which is the ultimate solution. Okay, they've separated us. And the ones that are taking the biggest L are the women. They're better at putting up a front. But look at every night, literally, Myron and fucking Fresh interview miserable single women who bitch about why they're single. Every night.
Yep. And there's an endless supply.
Endless fucking supply.
Yeah, and I would agree. I definitely agree with that. And I would also throw in once again. According to thanks for playing, Kev. Yeah, he had to roll.
He's gonna need to buy a computer if he wants to join rulezero.
He's got one. He's just he's trying to follow his mentor like you. He's trying to like do the show from his bedroom.
Give us a seizure with that thing jumping around.
Well, let me we'll close out here in just a second, but I want to make one last point here, because it goes into what both of you guys were saying just a second ago. Is if you look at the age between say like 18 and 28 here, like right in the break phase through like the party hoe phase right there, right up until the epiphany phase, that is when women have their primary agency, when they could be, assuming they make the most of it, they could have the most power over men because they're hot, they're young, they're fun. That's the age demographic that all men want to get with is at that 23-year-old age demographic. We across from 15 to 95 years old. That's the demographic that guys want to get with. And that is a 10-year window of opportunity for women in a lifetime, maybe 90 some odd years for a woman's average lifespan. In that lifespan, 10 years is when she's at her peak. And what happens is when you look at stuff like this, when she peaks out at about 23 years old right there and then rapidly falls off, that's where you get that misery. That's the realization, the hindbrain, subroutine that's going on in the background where it's like, I got to get a guy, I got to cash out of the casino, I got to get the guys before the lights come on at the club, because if I don't, then I miss my window of opportunity. And the idea, what we're selling women, even in selling them fat lingerie or selling them on the girl power stuff or whatever else, anything that is sort of the fempowerment narrative is meant to influence women to believe that their sexual agency is evergreen. That's why you get Paulina Porzakova at 56, 57 years old, wondering why she can't get a man, because society has a gynocentric social order has taught her, as well as 4 generations of women, that it doesn't matter how old you are, how fat you are, what your conditions are, what your, it makes no difference, because it's all what's on the inside. It's this idealistic kind of like romanticism, love kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter what size you are, you're still lovable, except for men. Men are not lovable until they can make a lot of money, until they excel at their burden of performance. And more, just like John was saying, 90% of men who are watching this stream or who are out there, talking in the Twitter sphere or the manosphere or whatever else, they don't understand why it is that they don't have to measure up to that burden of performance, while women are like, the burden of performance is way up here for me as a fat ass, but you don't care anymore because there's no incentive for guys to actually meet that burden of performance, because the average woman doesn't want to get with the average man.
Yeah. And I think this too, right? These girls, like you said, they want the turnkey relationship. They think they do, right? But how many girls have gone on dates with me and like, I went on this date and you weren't my type initially. I was like, yeah, sorry, because I wasn't fucking 6 foot tall, perfect body, perfect whatever. And now here you are begging to be in a relationship. Like, you guys got to stop having such like grandiose views of what women want, bro. At the end of the day, these girls are pretty simple. They just want to feel safe. They want to feel safe and loved. They don't want to worry about money. They don't want to worry about you run around fucking banging every girl in the town. And they just want to make sure that they feel loved. That's pretty much it. So, but the thing is, you guys overcomplicate it because you sit down and you read 1,900 pages of fucking Twitter sphere trash. You don't go to the gym. You don't you work at you're a professional DoorDash guy. Like you're like you work at DoorDash and Uber
don't ask out girls is another thing. That's a huge.
You're afraid to talk to a girl if there's not a screen in front of you. And then you wonder, like, shit, well, I guess I'll go home and beat my dick for the 17th time tonight.
Yeah, those were the 2 most common answers on that poll: pornography, and you don't ask girls out.
So the point I'm trying to make is this: you guys are gonna have to do the actual work that is required, that all of us here have done, to get the fucking great life that's available out there. Because the thing is this, once you get past that threshold, because the 6 figures is baby money, bro. And once you get past that 6-figure mark, once you get past that game threshold, when you're like, okay, I've actually gone on date with 20 girls, I kind of have an idea of what's going on here, not to get fleeced. Once you get past that, and then you continue to work on yourself as you get past that threshold, you start to realize oh, my competition is just dwindling away. No guy really can fucking hang, because guys just think a guy, oh, this guy's 6 foot tall and he's jacked and he makes good money. A lot of these guys are still massively gigantic pussies, gigantic pushovers, have no spine, have no backbone, right? I think Aaron's best fucking quality is he has a pretty strong backbone. He's like, nah, fuck this. I'm not going to do this shit. Fuck you. Fuck your job. Yep. Fuck your standards, bitch.
I just hate people, and I like saying "fuck you" to people.
Welcome to Rule Zero.
Seems so unlike you.
But if you just have a backbone about you, and you have balls to tell a girl no, and this is the way I want it, right? I've been dating this chick, right? And she's like, before I met you, I never met a guy that actually told me he wanted me to behave a certain way and act a certain way and dress a certain way. I was like, yeah. And where are all those guys now? Exactly.
Mm.
So don't say that. Cook my food like this. Don't wear that. I don't like you talking to that guy. That girl's a whore. Stay away from her, or you're going to be a whore too. Right. And if you want to continue to be with her, you can, but you're going to go down the path of whore path. And I'm not following you down whore path. I'm following you down.
Go to whore school.
Go to whore school. They give you a big dick to pin on your chest at the end.
Okay, let's go around the horn. I got to get out of here.
I gotta go. I'll
Robin,
see you
you're
guys
up.
later. It's late.
All right, thanks, man.
See you, Ryan.
Bye, Ryan.
Well, if you guys don't know, Toronto and Ottawa are burning to the ground right now. No, just kidding.
Nice.
It's actually fun. We're finally doing the pushback, getting our mandates back, get some freedoms going. I actually did a mini documentary, so I've been kind of off the red pill for a bit. And no, it's not a permanent switch to politics. I should probably have a link for this. I'll put a link in the chat. You guys can see it. It's basically everything you wanted to know about this freedom convoy that's going on, but we're afraid to ask. It's a great thing on media manipulation and how it matters to guys. Great stuff. Beyond that, this whole talk, I have no desire to help guys who don't even fucking start. Once you've got some shit going, then come see me. And that's easy enough to say on this one. And then don't forget, politics aren't red pill, even if I'm rambling about the fucking convoy. And beyond that, Patreon, I had to up the prices. We got too many guys in there right now, and I couldn't finish all the field reports in a decent time level. So if you wanted to join, but you're on the fence, it's too late. You got the new rates, but come on in. You can be number 350 or God knows how many we're at right now. It's a great time, and it's all the old shit. All the old field reports have been going over 10 years. It's just red pill. You've got the girls, now you need to keep the girls. You got the money, now you know how to keep the money. It's all there. And it's nice. It's a more chill atmosphere. It's a lot more, I don't know, it's a less bravado-laden 20-year-olds talking about bitches ain't shit. So if you're kind of tired of hearing bitches ain't shit, then yeah, come on over. That's all I got for you.
Right.
Thank you very much. Can I be in charge for a while?
Fitch, what do you got going on?
Reach out to me, johnfitch.net. It's got a link to all my stuff. I'm available for private lessons, seminars, small groups. I do consultations also. I can do online coaching for you to get ripped, jacked, look like an MMA fighter. I can help you with dating also. I've had quite a bit of experience in the last 4 years since the divorce. I've helped a number of guys out. I have some programs available. I've got the website streamlined, so booking is a lot easier. And stop being pussies. You really need to stop being pussies. Like, learn how to fight. Be a person like Mr. Clary. Have a backbone. Be willing to say fuck you to people, and be willing to stand your ground and fight somebody off if they want to get physical. Stop being pussies. I think that's a big problem we have today. All these guys want to talk about masculine shit, but nobody's willing to get punched in the face. Stop being a pussy.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
There you go.
Thank you.
It's gonna be your intro from here on out.
I feel welcome and belonging. Anyway, the new thing, I got a new class on Teachable called Achieving Financial Excellence, the most direct path to wealth. And so it's on Teachable. I had a link there. Fitch and Rolo, you guys got an affiliate link as well. So if you're a younger man,
I'll put that in the link. I'll put that in the description when we're done.
Cool. Yeah. So it's a short, cheaper class. It's $99, and it's like, here is, if you didn't know my background, I'm an economist. And so I said, this is the quickest way for you to get not poor. That's basically it. So that's my new class. You can take a look at it. Otherwise, same old, same old. If you have questions, you can always find me at assholeconsulting.com. And I have multiple books, the most germane, of course, being Bachelor Pad Economics and the Book of Numbers, which you can find on Amazon. So there you go.
There you go. All right. I'll answer this question right now, Josephino. A couple of things. First of all, before I get to that, I will be in Fort Lauderdale on Tuesday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. I guess that would be 6 a.m. Pacific. I will be on the Patrick Bet David show, the PBD podcast that day. That's kind of a big deal. So I'll be doing that. And then later on the week, I will be on with Donovan Sharp. I'll be on with Cappy as well, who's flying out. So we're gonna do a weekend in Miami and kind of try to repeat what we did, I guess, last March. So we'll be on the show. We're going to be doing some stuff down while we're down in Miami. We're there for the week. And so I will probably not have a Wednesday show, but tomorrow I will definitely be doing my live stream, which will be 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern as usual. And let's see, what else do I got going on? Oh, okay. So as far as book 5 is concerned, it is out for approval right now. It is with Amazon, and barring any major edits or anything like that, when they send it back, if they send it back to me, if they just simply approve it, then it will be out probably within the next week or two in February. So it's out for approval right now, and that's what I'm going with. And I am going to be doing a pre-launch for it as well. It will be, if you are on my mailing list, the Rational Mail, MAIL, you will get some pre-launch information and stuff. If you're part of my Patreon groups as well, you will get pre-launch bonuses and benefits as well. So if you haven't joined the mailing list, that's real easy to do. All you got to do is just click on therationalmail.com, and then the little floater thing will come up where you can just put in your email, and that's how I'm collecting all that stuff. And I also send out like preview chapters and bonus chapters and stuff like that, just to, because people seem to want that. So that's what I'm doing.
What's the topic or theme this time? Because
oh, it's a book on game. It is I'm calling it the Player's Handbook, and it's not a how-to guide. It's a why it works guide, and it's what the principles and why things in games. So I want to say it's a textbook you never got when you were taking, like, say you're going out with James Tusk, or you're going out with Troy, or you're going and doing infield stuff. I'm trying to make it applicable to everyone, no matter what you're if you're into game, or if you're into just if it's also very important, I think, in terms of relationships as well. So it's applicable to a lot of different fields. It's not just like, oh, I don't want PUA information. That's not what it's about. It's about the psychological underpinnings and the sociological underpinnings of why those, why intersexual dynamics works, and how women's nature and men's nature sort of, interact with each other according to, the psychology that I describe in the book. So that's really, like I said, it's not a how-to, it's a why it works guide. So it's kind of like the textbook you never got for the class.
And audio's coming out, what, 2027?
No, I've got that already lined up, but it will come out afterwards, but it won't be like a year afterwards. So that's what I got going. Thank you guys for joining me once again. I finally got back to doing Rule Zero, and I'm back in the saddle again. Also, I should mention that therationalmail.com, my blog, I am in the process of updating and revamping the entire blog. Nothing content wise is going to change. I'm trying to make it updated to like 2022 instead of 2018. So that's coming up in the very near future, and that's all I got. So guys, thank you very much for another great engaging episode. We actually got a good live viewership this round too. So
how many?
I think we got about 1,800. Not too bad.
Really? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, not too bad. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys got something out of this, and I'm glad we can still have these conversations where we're just sort of back and forth. We don't always have to agree with each other, although I think we kind of do. But we don't. We at least have that engagement, and we have the back and forth, and I think that's very valuable, because it will show you that this is not just an echo chamber here. So, all right, guys, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining us, and I don't know who's got duties next week, but you'll find out very soon. So, see you next Saturday. Bye.